Captain Jake Morrison stood at the window of detention facility Omega-7, watching the strange purple clouds drift across the alien sky. 3 months had passed since the war ended, but he still felt empty inside. The humans had won, but at such a high cost that victory felt hollow. Too many good people had died fighting the aliens who called themselves Catherians. Commander Lisa Brooks walked into the room behind him. Her boots made sharp sounds on the metal floor. Jake turned around and saluted her. She was a tough woman with short brown hair and scars on her left cheek from the Battle of Titan Station. "At ease, Morrison," she said. "I have a new assignment for you." Jake relaxed, but stayed alert. In the 3 months since arriving at this prison facility on the moon of Kepler 442b, he had mostly dealt with regular alien prisoners. They were sad creatures who missed their homes and families. Most caused no trouble. "What kind of assignment, ma'am?" Jake asked. Brooks handed him a data pad. "You're being assigned as personal guardian to a special prisoner, Lady Zara Veltareth. She's Catherian nobility." Jake looked at the information on the screen. The alien woman in the photo had pale skin like moonlight and long silver hair. Her ears were pointed like the elves from old Earth stories. Her eyes were bright violet and seemed to look right through the camera. She was beautiful in a way that made Jake uncomfortable. "Why does she need a personal guardian?" he asked. "Because she's the daughter of General Veltareth, the alien commander who planned the attacks on New Boston and Europa Colony," Brooks explained. "She has diplomatic immunity, so we can't treat her like a regular prisoner. The peace negotiations might need her as a bargaining chip." Jake remembered those attacks. 50,000 humans had died when the aliens destroyed New Boston. His younger brother Danny had been stationed there. Jake had never found Danny's body in the ruins. "I understand, ma'am," Jake said, though his jaw was tight with old anger. "Morrison, I know this is hard, but she's valuable to both sides. We need someone reliable watching her. Someone who won't let emotions get in the way." Jake nodded. He had always been good at controlling his feelings. That's what made him a good soldier. Brooks led him through the facility's white corridors. Other guards saluted as they passed. The facility held about 200 alien prisoners from different species. Most were soldiers or low-ranking officials. But Lady Zara was different. They stopped at a door marked with red security symbols. Brooks entered a code and the door slid open. Inside was a large room that looked more like a hotel suite than a prison cell. There were real windows, comfortable furniture, and even some alien plants in decorative pots. Lady Zara Veltareth stood with her back to them, looking out the window. She wore a simple white dress that somehow looked elegant on her tall, slim figure. When she turned around, Jake felt his breath catch. She was even more beautiful in person, but her violet eyes held cold pride and barely hidden anger. "Lady Zara," Brooks said formally, "this is Captain Morrison. He will be your new guardian." Zara looked Jake up and down like he was something unpleasant she had found on her shoe. "Another human babysitter," she said. Her voice had a musical quality, but it was filled with disdain. "How many of your kind will you assign to watch me?" "Captain Morrison will be your primary guardian," Brooks replied calmly. "He will escort you during exercise periods, meals, and any approved activities." "I see," Zara said. She walked closer to Jake, moving with fluid grace. "Tell me, Captain Morrison, how many of my people did you kill during your glorious war?" Jake kept his face blank, though her question hit him like a punch. "I did my duty, ma'am." "Your duty," she repeated, her lips curving in a cold smile. "Yes, humans are very good at following orders, even when those orders involve murdering civilians." Jake's hands clenched into fists, but he didn't move. "The Catherian Empire started this war, Lady Zara. We just finished it." "Did we?" she asked, tilting her head. "Or did we simply respond to human aggression in our territory?" Brooks stepped between them. "That's enough. Lady Zara, Captain Morrison, is here for your protection as much as for security. There are people on both sides who would prefer you dead." Zara's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Fear, maybe, or loneliness. It was gone so quickly that Jake wondered if he had imagined it. "I understand my position," Zara said. "I am a prisoner who must be kept alive for political reasons, but do not expect me to be grateful for human protection." Brooks left Jake alone with his new assignment. The first few hours were tense and silent. Zara ignored him completely, reading from a book written in alien symbols. Jake stood by the door, watching her, and thinking about his brother Danny. When mealtime came, Jake escorted Zara to a small dining room reserved for high-value prisoners. She ate in silence while he stood guard. The food looked like normal human meals, but Jake knew the kitchen staff prepared special versions that were safe for Catherian biology. "Do you have a family, Captain Morrison?" Zara asked suddenly. Jake was surprised by the question. "Why do you want to know?" "Curiosity," she said, cutting her food with precise movements. "I wonder if all humans are as emotionally limited as they appear." "I had a younger brother," Jake said before he could stop himself. "He died at New Boston." Zara's fork paused halfway to her mouth. She looked at him with those violet eyes, and for a moment, the cold mask slipped. "I am sorry for your loss," she said quietly. "Are you?" Jake asked. "Your father planned that attack?" "My father planned many things I did not agree with," Zara replied. "But that does not bring back your brother." They finished the meal in silence. As Jake escorted her back to her room, Zara spoke again. "Captain Morrison, you should know something about Catherians. We do not lie about death. When I said I was sorry for your loss, I meant it." Jake didn't know what to say to that. He locked her door and went to his own quarters, his mind full of questions he hadn't expected to have. That night, alarms woke him from uneasy sleep. Emergency lights flashed red in the corridors as Jake ran toward Zara's room. Other guards were already there, but the door was still locked. Inside, they found Zara standing by the window. She had somehow removed the metal grating and was preparing to climb out. "Lady Zara, step away from the window," Jake ordered. She looked at him with wild eyes. "I cannot stay here. I will not be used as a tool in your politics." Jake moved slowly toward her. The window opened onto a 3-story drop, but Catherians were stronger and faster than humans. She might survive the fall. "Where would you go?" Jake asked. "This is an alien moon. There's nowhere to run." "Then I will die free," she said, placing one foot on the window ledge. Jake lunged forward and grabbed her wrist. For a moment, they struggled. Zara was strong, stronger than any human woman, but Jake was bigger and had military training. He pulled her back from the window without hurting her. They stood facing each other, both breathing hard. Zara's silver hair had come loose and framed her face. Her violet eyes were bright with unshed tears. "You are not what I expected from your kind," she said softly. "What did you expect?" Jake asked. "Brutality, hatred, simple minds focused only on revenge." She straightened her dress and pulled her hair back. "But you could have hurt me just now, and you chose not to." Jake released her wrist and stepped back. "Hurting prisoners isn't my job." "No," Zara agreed. "But many of your people would have done it anyway." She walked to her bed and sat down, suddenly looking very tired. "I will not try to escape again, Captain Morrison. You have my word." Jake didn't know if he could trust her word, but something in her voice made him believe her. He ordered the other guards to repair the window and left Zara alone with her thoughts. As he walked back to his quarters, Jake realized that his assignment was going to be much more complicated than he had expected. Lady Zara Veltereth was not just another alien prisoner. She was intelligent, proud, and dangerous in ways he was only beginning to understand, But she was also something else he hadn't expected. She was honest, even when that honesty revealed her pain. And despite everything her people had done to his, Jake found himself curious about what other surprises she might hold. 2 weeks had passed since Zara's escape attempt, and Jake was beginning to understand why Commander Brooks had chosen him for this assignment. Lady Zara was unlike any prisoner he had ever guarded. She was intelligent, unpredictable, and had a way of asking questions that made him think about things he preferred to forget. Every morning, Jake escorted her to the facility's small garden area for exercise. The garden was enclosed by high walls, but it had real plants and open sky. Zara moved through a series of flowing movements that looked like a combination of dance and martial arts. Her body bent and stretched in ways that seemed impossible for humans. "What is that?" Jake asked one morning, watching her complete a particularly graceful sequence. "Combat meditation," Zara replied without stopping. "It helps maintain physical fitness and mental clarity." She spun around, her silver hair flowing like water. "Your people have something similar, I believe. You call it yoga." Jake was surprised she knew about human practices. "How do you know about yoga?" "I studied human culture before the war," Zara said, finishing her routine. "My father believed we needed to understand our enemies." She sat on a stone bench and looked at Jake with those unsettling violet eyes. "I believed we needed to understand our neighbors." "Neighbors?" Jake couldn't keep the disbelief out of his voice. "Your people attacked our colonies without warning." "Yes," Zara said simply, "and that was wrong." She was quiet for a moment, watching the alien birds that lived in the garden. "Tell me, Captain Morrison, what do you know about Catherian society?" "You're militaristic. You have advanced technology. You think you're better than other species," Jake replied. Zara smiled, but it was a sad smile. "You know very little, then." She gestured for him to sit beside her on the bench. Jake hesitated, then sat down, keeping some distance between them. "Catherians are not militaristic by nature," Zara began. "We are artists, philosophers, and scientists. Our society values beauty, knowledge, and harmony with nature." She pointed to one of the alien plants. "That flower is from my homeworld. It blooms only once every 10 years, and when it does, entire cities stop their work to celebrate." Jake looked at the plant. It had blue petals that seemed to shimmer in the light. "Then why did your people start a war?" "Fear," Zara said quietly. "When humans began expanding into space, some of our leaders became afraid. They saw your rapid technological development and aggressive expansion as a threat to our way of life." "We weren't threatening anyone," Jake protested. "Weren't you?" Zara asked. "Your species went from primitive agriculture to interstellar travel in less than 10,000 years. That kind of rapid development frightened people who had lived peacefully for millions of years." Jake had never thought about it that way. Humans were proud of their rapid progress, but he could see how it might seem threatening to other species. "But you didn't agree with the war," he said. "No," Zara confirmed. "I believed our species could coexist. I argued for diplomatic contact instead of military action." Her voice became bitter. "My father called me naive. He said I was too soft to understand the realities of survival." That afternoon, Dr. Maya Foster arrived at the facility. She was a xenobiologist who specialized in interspecies communication. Commander Brooks had requested her help with the cultural exchange program they were developing. Dr. Foster was a small woman with kind eyes and graying hair. She set up a meeting room with comfortable chairs and alien artwork on the walls. Jake sat in the corner while she talked with Zara. "Tell me about Catherian family structures," Dr. Foster asked. "We are matriarchal," Zara explained. "Females hold political power and make important decisions for the clan. Males focus on artistic pursuits, child rearing, and spiritual guidance. That's very different from human society, Dr. Foster observed. Yes, Zara agreed. Though I understand human females are gaining more equality in recent generations. Jake listened as they discussed the differences between their cultures. Cytherians lived much longer than humans, sometimes over 500 years. They had a complex caste system based on artistic ability and spiritual development. Violence was rare in their society, which made the war even more traumatic for them. The decision to attack human colonies was made by a small group of military leaders, Zara explained. Most Cytherians opposed it, but our society values hierarchy and obedience to authority. Like soldiers following orders, Jake said without thinking. Zara looked at him with surprise. Yes, exactly like that. After the session, Dr. Foster asked Jake to walk with her to the cafeteria. What do you think of Lady Zara? She asked. She's not what I expected, Jake admitted. She seems genuine. She is, Dr. Foster confirmed. I've been studying Cytherian psychology, and they're incapable of lying about emotional matters. It goes against their fundamental nature. Jake thought about that as they got their dinner. If Zara couldn't lie about emotions, then her sadness about the war was real. Her regret about human deaths was genuine. That evening, Jake was walking past the medical bay when he heard shouting. He ran inside to find Serena, Zara's handmaiden, collapsed on the floor. The alien woman was small and delicate, with the same pointed ears and pale skin as Zara, but with green eyes instead of violet. What happened? Jake asked the medical staff. Allergic reaction to something in the food, the doctor replied. Her species can't process certain human proteins. Jake ran to get Zara. When she saw Serena unconscious and struggling to breathe, Zara's calm composure cracked completely. She knelt beside the bed and spoke rapidly in her own language, holding Serena's hand. What can I do? Jake asked. She needs a specific medicine from our medical supplies, Zara said, tears running down her face. But it was confiscated when we arrived. Jake ran to the storage facility and searched through boxes of alien belongings until he found medical supplies marked with Cytherian symbols. He brought the entire box back to the medical bay. Zara quickly found what she needed and showed the human doctor how to administer it. Within minutes, Serena's breathing improved. The crisis was over. Thank you, Zara said to Jake. Her voice was hoarse from crying. Serena has been with my family since I was a child. She's like a sister to me. Jake nodded. He understood that kind of bond. He had felt the same way about his squad mates during the war. Over the next few days, Jake noticed changes in how other prisoners treated Zara. She spent time with aliens from different species, helping them adapt to human captivity. She shared her food with those who couldn't eat human meals. She taught meditation techniques to help with stress and homesickness. Why do you help them? Jake asked one day. Because they are suffering, Zara replied simply. And I have the ability to ease that suffering. Even though they're not your people, Zara looked at him with those violet eyes that seemed to see everything. Suffering recognizes no species boundaries, Captain Morrison. Neither should compassion. Jake began to look forward to their conversations. Zara asked him about human customs, human history, and human dreams for the future. She listened carefully to his answers and asked thoughtful questions that showed she was genuinely interested. Do humans mate for life? She asked one day during their garden walk. Jake felt his face grow warm. Some do, others don't. It depends on the individuals involved. Cytherians mate for life, Zara said. When we choose a partner, it's a bond that lasts until death. That sounds nice, Jake said, but also limiting. How so? What if you choose wrong? What if the person changes or you grow apart? Zara considered this. We believe that true compatibility goes deeper than surface changes. If you choose wisely, your souls will remain connected even as your bodies and minds evolve, Jake thought. about his parents who had been married for 35 years before his father died in an industrial accident. They had been happy together, even through difficult times. Maybe the Catherians understood something about relationships that humans had forgotten. One evening, the facility's power went out during a solar storm. Emergency lighting provided only dim illumination, and the climate control systems failed. Jake was making his routine check on Zara when he found her sitting in darkness, shivering in the cold. "The backup generators should restore power soon," he told her. "I'm not concerned about the power," Zara said. "But Catherians are sensitive to temperature changes. This cold reminds me of the holding cells on the prison ship that brought us here." Jake could hear the fear in her voice. Without thinking, he sat down beside her and offered her his jacket. She looked surprised, but accepted it gratefully. "Tell me about your homeworld," Jake said, trying to distract her from the cold. Zara's voice grew soft as she described crystal cities that rose from purple seas, forests where the trees sang in harmony with the wind, and schools where children learned to paint with light itself. She talked about her family's estate, where she had grown up surrounded by gardens and libraries. "It sounds beautiful," Jake said. It was, Zara agreed, but beauty means nothing without someone to share it with. In the darkness, Jake found himself sharing his own memories. He told her about his childhood on a farming colony, about his parents' small house with its view of golden wheat fields, and about his brother Danny's laugh that could make anyone smile. "He sounds like he was a wonderful person," Zara said softly. "He was," Jake replied. The trouble started on a Tuesday morning when Jake found Sergeant Peters and 2 other guards harassing Zara in the garden. Peters was a thick-built man with cruel eyes who had lost his entire unit in the war. He stood too close to Zara, speaking in a low, threatening voice. "Maybe it's time we showed this alien princess what happens to enemies of humanity," Peters was saying. Jake stepped between them. "Back off, Sergeant," Peters turned with a sneer. "Oh, look who's protecting his pet alien. Morrison's gone soft." "On the enemy. Lady Zara is under my protection," Jake said calmly. "Anyone who touches her answers to me." "Is that so?" Peters moved closer, his hand resting on his weapon. "Maybe you've forgotten which side you're on, Captain." Jake's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. "Walk away, Peters. Now." The other guards looked uncertain. They outranked Jake numerically, but his reputation as a combat veteran made them hesitate. After a long moment, Peters spat on the ground and walked away with his men. "You shouldn't have done that," Zara said quietly when they were alone. "Why not?" "Because now they'll cause trouble for you." Zara touched his arm gently. "I don't want you to suffer because of me." Jake looked down at her pale hand on his sleeve. Such a simple touch, but it sent warmth through his entire body. "I can handle Peters and his friends." "I know you can," Zara said, "but you shouldn't have to." Commander Brooks called Jake to her office that afternoon. She looked tired and stressed as she reviewed the incident report on her computer screen. "Sergeant Peters filed a complaint against you," she said. "He claims you threatened a fellow soldier to protect an enemy prisoner." "Peters was out of line," Jake replied. "Lady Zara is not to be harmed." "I know that, and you know that. But Peters has friends among the crew." Brooks leaned back in her chair. "Jake, you're doing good work with Lady Zara. The cultural exchange program is providing valuable intelligence about Catherian society. But you need to be careful." "Careful about what?" "About getting too close to your assignment." Brooks studied his face. "She's beautiful, intelligent, and surprisingly sympathetic for someone whose father orchestrated attacks on our colonies. It would be easy to forget what she represents." Jake felt heat rise in his cheeks. "I haven't forgotten anything, ma'am." "Good," Brooks said, "because intelligence reports suggest that Prince Darian, her cousin, is organizing rescue attempts. If he succeeds, Lady Zara goes back to her people. Don't let yourself get attached to something you can't keep." That evening, Dr. Foster introduced Jake to a new aspect of Catherian culture during their regular session. Zara had agreed to demonstrate a traditional bonding ritual that her people used to share memories and emotions. It's completely voluntary, Dr. Foster explained, and it requires physical contact between participants. Captain Morrison, are you comfortable with this? Jake looked at Zara, who sat calmly in her chair. She wore a simple blue dress that matched her eyes, and her silver hair was braided with small flowers from the garden. What exactly does this ritual involve? Jake asked. I place my hands on your temples and open my mind to yours, Zara explained. You will experience some of my memories, and I will experience some of yours. It creates understanding between individuals. Is it safe? Completely safe, Dr. Foster assured him. I've been studying Catherian telepathic abilities. They're limited to voluntary contact and memory sharing. No mind control or thought reading. Jake nodded his agreement. Zara moved her chair closer to his and placed her cool hands on either side of his face. Her violet eyes looked directly into his as she whispered something in her own language. The world exploded into color and sensation. Jake found himself standing in a vast crystal chamber filled with beings who looked like Zara. He could feel her emotions as if they were his own. Love for her family, devotion to her people, and terrible sadness about the war. He experienced her memories of arguing with her father about the human colonies. She had begged him to try diplomatic contact first, but General Veltereth had refused to listen. Jake felt her desperation as she watched her people prepare for a war she knew was wrong. Then the memories shifted, and Jake was reliving his own experiences through Zara's perspective. She felt his grief when Danny died, his anger at the Catherian attacks, and his gradual understanding that his enemies were more complex than he had believed. When the connection ended, both of them were breathing hard. Tears ran down Zara's face and Jake's hands were shaking. I'm sorry, Zara whispered. I'm so sorry about your brother. Jake reached out and took her hands in his. And I'm sorry about your people. About the ones who died because of human retaliation. Dr. Foster was making notes furiously. This is remarkable. The level of empathic connection achieved through this ritual could revolutionize interspecies diplomacy. But Jake wasn't thinking about diplomacy. He was thinking about the woman sitting across from him, whose pain he had felt as clearly as his own. Zara was no longer an alien enemy or even a prisoner. She was someone who had suffered as much as he had, someone who understood loss and regret and the weight of choices that couldn't be undone. Over the next few days, their relationship changed, in ways that both excited and terrified Jake. Zara began teaching him words in her language, and he taught her human songs that reminded him of home. They discovered shared interests in music, philosophy, and astronomy. Your people have a saying, Zara said one evening as they watched the sunset from her room's window. Home is where the heart is. What does that mean to you? Jake thought about it. It means that place isn't as important as the people you love. You can make a home anywhere if you're with the right person. Catherians have a similar concept, Zara said. We say that the soul recognizes its perfect match across any distance, through any barrier. She was standing very close to him, close enough that he could smell the subtle floral scent of her hair. Jake found himself reaching out to touch her face, tracing the elegant line of her pointed ear with one finger. This is dangerous, he said softly. I know, Zara replied. But she didn't move away. They were interrupted by an urgent communication from Dr. Foster. She had intercepted alien transmissions that suggested rescue operations were being planned. Prince Darian's forces had been spotted in nearby star systems. They're coming for her, Dr. Foster told Jake privately. And according to our intelligence, the prince believes Lady Zara has been compromised by her contact with humans. If he rescues her, she'll likely face execution for treason. Jake felt cold fear settle in his stomach. When? Soon. Maybe days, maybe weeks. But Captain Morrison, there's something else you should know. Dr. Foster looked uncomfortable. Cytherians live much longer than humans. Lady Zara is only considered a young adult by her people's standards, despite being over 60 years old, by human counting. What are you saying? I'm saying that her interest in you might be based on factors you don't understand. Cytherians form emotional bonds differently than humans do. Their concept of time and commitment operates on a completely different scale. That night, Jake couldn't sleep. He walked the corridors of the facility, thinking about everything Dr. Foster had told him. When he found himself standing outside Zara's door, he realized he had been walking toward her room without conscious thought. He used his security code to open the door. Zara was awake, sitting by her window and looking out at the alien stars. "I wondered if you would come," she said without turning around. "Dr. Foster told me about the rescue mission," Jake said, "and about what will happen to you if Prince Darien takes you back." "Yes," Zara said simply. "I expected as much. Doesn't that scare you?" Zara turned to face him, and Jake saw that she had been crying. "Of course it scares me. But I knew the risks when I chose to oppose the war." Jake sat down beside her. "There might be another way." "What do you mean?" "We could arrange for you to be transferred to a human colony world. Somewhere safe, where you could start a new life." Zara smiled sadly. "As a traitor to my own species and a trophy to yours? What kind of life would that be?" "A life with someone who cares about you," Jake said before he could stop himself. Zara's eyes widened. "Jake, you don't understand what you're saying." "I understand perfectly." Jake took her hands in his. "I know this is crazy. I know there are 1,000 reasons why it's impossible, but I've never felt about anyone the way I feel about you. And I have never felt about anyone the way I feel about you," Zara admitted. "But my people would consider me corrupted by human contact, and your people would never accept an alien as your mate. Then maybe we need to find our own people," Jake said. "Maybe we need to create something new." Zara leaned forward and rested her forehead against his. In the dim light of her room, with the alien stars shining through the window, Jake felt as if they were the only two people in the universe. "If we did this," Zara said quietly, "there would be no going back, for either of us." "I know," Jake replied. "Are you willing to take that risk?" Before Zara could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Emergency lights flashed red, and Jake's communicator crackled with urgent messages. "All security personnel to battle stations. We have incoming alien vessels. This is not a drill." Jake and Zara looked at each other with the same thought. Prince Darien had arrived, and their time together was about to end. Whatever choice The attack came at dawn. Jake was escorting Zara to the transport ship that would take her to a maximum security facility in the inner colonies when Prince Darien's forces struck the detention center. Explosions rocked the building as Cytherian. Fighters screamed overhead, their weapons lighting up the alien sky. "Get to the bunkers!" Commander Brooks shouted over the facility's communication system. "This is a full-scale rescue operation." Jake grabbed Zara's hand and pulled her toward the nearest emergency shelter, but she resisted. "You don't understand," Zara said urgently. "Darien isn't here to rescue me. He's here to eliminate what he sees as a threat to Cytherian purity." "What do you mean?" Before Zara could answer, a section of the corridor wall exploded inward. Through the smoke and debris, Jake saw figures in sleek silver armor moving with inhuman speed and grace. Cytherian commandos had breached the facility. Jake drew his weapon and pushed Zara behind him. "Stay down!" The lead commando removed his helmet, revealing a face that looked like a male version of Zara. Prince Darien had the same pointed ears and pale skin, but his eyes were cold silver instead of warm violet. He was taller than Zara and broader through the shoulders, with an air of absolute authority. "Cousin," Darien said in accented English, You look well for someone who has been corrupted by human contact. Darien, Zara replied, stepping out from behind Jake despite his attempt to shield her. I wondered when you would come. Did you think I would abandon family? Even family that has brought shame upon our bloodline? Darien's silver eyes fixed on Jake with obvious disgust. Step away from the human, Zara. We're taking you home. To face execution for treason, Zara said calmly. Darien's expression didn't change. To face justice for consorting with the enemy and betraying everything our people stand for. Jake kept his weapon trained on Darien, but he knew he was outmatched. The Catherian prince moved like liquid lightning, and his armor would probably stop human bullets. Still, Jake wasn't going to let them take Zara without a fight. She's under my protection, Jake said. Darien laughed, a sound like breaking crystal. Your protection? Human. Do you have any idea who you're dealing with? Lady Zara Veltareth carries the genetic heritage of the oldest noble house in the Catherian Empire. Her bloodline is essential for the survival of our species. What does that mean? Jake asked. It means, Dr. Foster said from behind them, that Lady Zara is one of only a few dozen Catherians who can successfully reproduce with members of other noble houses. She had appeared in the corridor with several human soldiers, her usually calm demeanor replaced by urgent intensity. Zara closed her eyes in pain. You told them, didn't you, Darien, about the genetic bottleneck? I told them the truth, Darien replied, that our people face extinction within 3 generations unless we preserve the pure bloodlines. You cannot be allowed to waste your genetic heritage on inferior species. Jake felt as if he had been punched in the stomach. Everything suddenly made terrible sense. The war hadn't just been about territory or resources. It had been about survival. The Catherians were a dying race, and Zara represented something they couldn't afford to lose. More explosions echoed through the facility as human and Catherian forces battled in the corridors above. In space, larger ships were engaging in deadly combat, their weapons creating aurora displays in the alien atmosphere. Zara, come with me now, and your human friend lives, Darien said. Refuse, and I'll kill him where he stands. And if I come with you, I die anyway, Zara replied. At least if I stay, Jake has a chance to survive. You would choose death over duty to your people? I would choose love over fear, Zara said firmly. Darien's face twisted with rage. Love? With this creature? Zara, you have lost your mind. No, Zara said, moving to stand beside Jake. I have found my heart. The prince raised his hand, and Jake saw the shimmer of energy around his fingers. Catherians had limited telepathic abilities, but members of the royal family could use their mental powers as weapons. Jake didn't hesitate. He threw himself in front of Zara just as Darien released a bolt of psychic energy. The attack hit Jake, like a lightning strike, sending agony through every nerve in his body. He collapsed to the floor, his vision fading. Through the haze of pain, Jake heard Zara scream his name. Then he heard something else that chilled his blood. Serena, Zara's loyal handmaiden, was speaking in rapid Catherian to Prince Darien. What is she saying? Dr. Foster asked. She's telling him about Jake, Zara said, her voice breaking. About how he protected me, how he chose compassion over revenge. She's asking Darien to spare him. Darien listened to Serena with growing impatience. Finally, he snapped something harsh in their language. Serena bowed her head and spoke one more time, her voice pleading. She's offering to take my place, Zara translated, tears streaming down her face. She's saying that if Darien kills Jake, he'll have to kill her too, because she won't live in a universe where such cruelty is rewarded. Darien looked at the small, fragile handmaiden with something approaching respect. Your servant has more honor than you do, cousin. Very well. The human lives, but you come with me now. No, Jake said, struggling to his feet despite the lingering effects of the psychic attack. Zara, don't do this. I have to, Zara said softly. If I don't, more. People will die. But before anyone could move, Commander Brooks and a squad of human soldiers burst into the corridor. A firefight erupted as human weapons met Catherian energy blasts. In the chaos, Jake saw Serena dart forward toward Prince Darien. The loyal handmaiden threw herself at the prince, not to attack him, but to shield him from human weapons' fire. Jake watched in horror as multiple bullets struck her small body. She collapsed at Darien's feet, her green eyes already glassy with approaching death. "Serena!" Zara screamed, rushing to her friend's side. Darien stared down at the dying woman who had given her life to protect him from his enemies. For the first time since arriving, his cold composure cracked. "Why?" he asked in his own language. Serena's lips moved weakly. Zara leaned close to hear her final words, then looked up at her cousin with tears in her eyes. She said that love is stronger than duty, and forgiveness is stronger than revenge. She said that if you can't see that, then our people deserve to die. Darien's silver eyes filled with something Jake had never expected to see there. Grief, and perhaps the beginning of understanding. "The transport ship is ready for immediate departure," one of Brooks's soldiers reported. "But we need to leave now." Jake realized this was their chance. In the confusion of the battle and Serena's sacrifice, they could escape. He grabbed Zara's hand. "Come with me," he said urgently. Zara looked at Serena's still form, then at her cousin's anguished face. "I can't leave her, and I can't leave him like this." "If you stay, you die," Jake said. "If I leave, I abandon everything I am." Zara touched his face gently. "Go, Jake. Live a good life. Find someone who can give you the future you deserve." "I don't want anyone else," Jake said desperately. "I want you." "And I want you," Zara replied. "But wanting isn't always enough." Before Jake could argue further, Dr. Foster grabbed his arm. "Captain Morrison, we have to go. The facility's reactor is overloading." Jake realized that someone had sabotaged the power core. In minutes, this entire section of the building would be destroyed. He looked at Zara one last time, memorizing every detail of her beautiful, heartbroken face. Then he made a choice that surprised everyone, including himself. Instead of leaving with Dr. Foster, Jake holstered his weapon and walked toward Prince Darien. The Catherian prince tensed, expecting an attack, but Jake stopped just out of arm's reach. "Your Highness," Jake said formally, "I request sanctuary for Lady Zara under the ancient laws of combat." Darien stared at him in shock. "You know our laws?" "Lady Zara taught me about Catherian honor codes," Jake replied. "If I defeat you in single combat, she goes free. If you defeat me, I accept whatever fate you choose for both of us." "Jake, no!" Zara protested. "He's stronger and faster than any human." "Maybe," Jake said, not taking his eyes off Darien. "But I have something he doesn't." "What's that?" Darien asked with cold amusement. "Something worth fighting for," Jake replied. The facility shook with another explosion, closer this time. Time was running out for all of them. Darien looked at Serena's body, then at his cousin's desperate face, then at the human soldier who was willing to die for love. When he spoke, his voice was quieter than before. "Very well, human. I accept your challenge, but we fight by Catherian rules, which means no weapons and no mercy." "Agreed," Jake said, hoping he wasn't about to make the biggest mistake of his life. Dr. Foster and the other humans retreated to a safe distance as Jake and Darien faced each other in the damaged corridor. Zara knelt beside Serena's body, whispering prayers in her native language. The prince removed his armor, revealing a lean, muscular frame that moved with predatory grace. Jake had trained in combat sports, but he had never faced an opponent with superhuman speed and strength. "Last chance to surrender," Darien said. "Never," Jake replied. They circled each other like ancient gladiators, waiting for the right moment to strike. When Darien finally moved, it was with inhuman speed. Jake barely managed to dodge the first attack, feeling the wind from the prince's fist as it passed inches from his face. The fight was brutal and one-sided. 6 months later, Jake stood on the observation deck of their small diplomatic station, watching 3 different alien ships approach the planet Haven. The station orbited a world that had become a refuge for species displaced by the Galactic War, and every day brought new challenges and new hope. The Altarian delegation is requesting permission to establish a mining colony in the southern continent, Zara said, joining him at the viewing window. She wore simple clothes now instead of the elegant dresses of her royal past. But she had never looked more beautiful to Jake. Her silver hair was shorter, and her violet eyes held a peace that hadn't been there during her captivity. "What do you think?" Jake asked. "I think the Zenthari farmers won't appreciate having their soil disturbed by heavy mining equipment," Zara replied with a small smile. "But perhaps we can arrange a compromise. The Altarians need rare metals for their technology, and the Zenthari need better irrigation systems for their crops." Jake nodded. This was how their days went now, mediating between species that had once been enemies, finding ways for different peoples to coexist on their shared world. It wasn't easy work, but it was important work. Their station was small but efficient, with living quarters for themselves and their staff, meeting rooms for negotiations, and communication equipment that connected them to dozens of worlds across the galaxy. They had started with nothing but hope and determination. Now they were making a real difference. "Dr. Foster sent another message," Zara said, handing him a data pad. "Earth Alliance Command wants to expand our program to 3 more systems." Jake read the message with growing amazement. Their success on Haven had attracted attention from both human and alien governments. Species that had been bitter enemies were now working together, sharing technology and resources in ways no one had thought possible. "There's more news," Zara said, and Jake could hear excitement in her voice. "Prince Darien sent a personal communication." Jake looked up in surprise. They hadn't heard from Zara's cousin since the rescue attempt at the detention facility. "What did he say?" "He's convinced the Catherian Council to begin formal peace negotiations with Earth Alliance," Zara explained. "And he wants us to serve as cultural advisors during the talks." Jake felt a mixture of joy and apprehension. "That's incredible. But are you ready to face your people again?" Zara was quiet for a moment, looking out at the ships approaching their station. "I've been thinking about that. When I was a prisoner, I believed I had lost everything that mattered. My family, my position, my purpose in life. But I was wrong." "How so?" "I hadn't lost those things," Zara said, taking his hand. "I had simply found better ones." Jake squeezed her fingers gently. "Even if it means being branded a traitor by your own species?" Darien's message included something else, Zara said with a mysterious smile. "It seems that several other Catherian nobles have formed relationships with members of other species. Our example has inspired others to look beyond the old prejudices." "Really? Really?" "Darien himself has been working closely with a human diplomat named Ambassador Kelly Chen. According to his message, their partnership has become quite personal." Jake laughed, remembering the cold, proud prince who had nearly killed him 6 months ago. "Love really does conquer all, doesn't it?" "In this case, it certainly seems to," Zara agreed. A soft chime indicated that their first appointment of the day was arriving. Jake and Zara made their way to the main conference room, where representatives from 4 different species were gathering to discuss trade agreements. The meeting went well, as most of their sessions did now. Jake had learned to read the subtle body language cues of different alien species, while Zara's natural diplomatic skills and deep cultural knowledge made her invaluable in bridging communication gaps. After the last delegation left, Jake and Zara shared a quiet dinner in their private quarters. The room was decorated with artifacts from a dozen different worlds, gifts from grateful species they had helped. "Do you ever miss it?" Jake asked as they ate. "The palace life, the luxury, being royalty?" Zara considered the question seriously. "I miss my family, especially the members who died in the war. I miss the beauty of my homeworld and the traditions of my people. But I don't miss the isolation that came with my position." Isolation? When you're born into nobility, you're surrounded by people who want things from you, but rarely by people who actually know you, Zara explained. "Here, on this station, I work with beings who value me for what I do, not for who my ancestors were." Jake understood that feeling. His own family had been simple farmers, but he had found purpose and identity in military service. Now, he was discovering that helping others build peaceful lives was even more satisfying than winning battles. "There's something I need to tell you," Zara said suddenly, her voice soft and uncertain. Jake looked at her with concern. "What is it?" Zara took a deep breath. "I'm pregnant." Jake felt the words hit him like a physical blow. For a moment, he couldn't speak, couldn't think, couldn't do anything but stare at the woman he loved. "Pregnant," he repeated numbly. "I know it's unexpected," Zara said quickly. "Dr. Foster confirmed that human Catherian reproduction is possible, but we didn't think it would happen so quickly." "Are you okay? Is the baby okay?" Jake asked, his protective instincts overwhelming his shock. "We're both fine," Zara assured him. "But Jake, this child will be something entirely new, neither fully human nor fully Catherian, but a bridge between both species." Jake reached across the table and took her hands. "Are you happy about this?" Zara's eyes filled with tears. "I'm terrified and thrilled and amazed all at the same time. This baby will grow up in a universe we're helping to create, where species work together instead of fighting each other. A universe where love matters more than politics," Jake added. "Exactly." They held each other in the quiet of their quarters, thinking about the future they were creating together. Outside their window, Haven's 2 moons were rising over the horizon, casting silver light across the growing settlements below. A communication alert interrupted their moment. Commander Brooks appeared on their main screen, looking pleased and slightly amazed. "Jake, Zara, I have news from Earth Alliance Command," she said. "The success of your program has convinced both human and alien governments to establish formal diplomatic relations. You're being offered positions as the first interspecies ambassadors in galactic history." "What would that involve?" Jake asked. "Traveling throughout known space, establishing peaceful contact with species we've never met, mediating conflicts, and building the framework for a truly unified galactic community," Brooks explained. "It's dangerous work, but it's also the most important job in the galaxy." Jake looked at Zara. "What do you think?" "I think," Zara said slowly, "that our child should grow up in a universe where all species can coexist peacefully. And if we can help create that universe, we should try." "Even with a baby on the way?" Jake asked. "Especially with a baby on the way," Zara replied firmly. "This child will be proof that different species can create something beautiful together." Jake turned back to the communication screen. "Commander Brooks, we accept the assignment." Brooks smiled. "I was hoping you'd say that. You'll have a full diplomatic team, an advanced starship with the best defensive systems available, and the backing of every major government in known space." After Brooks signed off, Jake and Zara sat together on their couch, planning their future. They would leave Haven in the care of the local councils they had helped establish and venture out into unexplored space, carrying a message of peace and cooperation to species that had never heard of humans or Catherians. "Do you think we can really make a difference?" Jake asked. "We already have," Zara pointed out. 6 months ago, the idea of human-alien cooperation was considered impossible. Now it's becoming normal. Thanks to one stubborn soldier and one rebellious princess who fell in love despite every reason not to, Jake said with a grin. Thanks to two people who chose hope over fear, Zara corrected, and who proved that love really can change the universe. 3 days later, their new ship arrived at Haven. The vessel was sleek and beautiful, designed by both human and Cytherian engineers working together. They named it the Serena, in honor of the brave handmaiden who had given her life to protect those she loved. As they prepared to leave Haven for their first diplomatic mission, delegations from every species on the planet gathered to see them off. Humans, Cytherians, Zenthari, Altarians, and dozens of others stood together, united in their gratitude for the peace Jake and Zara had helped create. "Ready for our next adventure?" Jake asked, as they took their positions on the bridge. Zara placed one hand on her still flat stomach and took Jake's hand with the other. "Ready," she said. Their ship lifted off from Haven and headed toward the jump point that would take them to unexplored regions of space. Behind them, the planet continued its peaceful rotation, home to species that had once been enemies and were now becoming friends. Ahead of them lay the unknown, filled with challenges and opportunities they couldn't yet imagine. But Jake and Zara faced the future without fear, knowing that whatever they encountered, they would meet it together. In the depths of space, their child grew in Zara's womb, a symbol of hope and unity for a galaxy learning to heal from the wounds of war.